Hi, Emily. Welcome to another podcast. Let's talk about Jesus. I'm so excited to share with you guys what God has placed in my heart. And I pray that it's a blessing to you as it's been a blessing to me to live it. Let's go. Happy Friday. I missed last week. We did have a holiday, so I was enjoying the weekend with my wife. We had a pretty good weekend and back at it this week. Could not miss it. I was tired today, but I'm like, no, I got to get to my podcast. It's been a good week. Also, work has been busy with my full time job. So just kind of trying to find that time frame to come in here and record while I'm doing other things. But here I am back at it. So excited to share with you guys what God placed in my heart. This week, the title of the podcast is Do Not Grow Weary in Doing Good. And when I was preparing this podcast, which was actually the Bible study I did with my wife on Tuesday, the opening scripture that God gave to me in that morning was from Galatians 6:9, that talks about let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due time we will reap if we do not grow weary. And that sometimes, a lot of times, depending on the season you're in. And the reason how I came up with this podcast was because sometimes, we wrestle with the season that we're in. For me personally, the season of my life that I'm in right now is completely different than where I was 2 years ago, and making that transition from that lifestyle of that I did to being a married man has been a huge change. And the Lord pretty much changed almost everything about my life from that season to this season. So sometimes you do find discouragement in your day to day walk because, again, you're not seeing the fruitfulness or what you were doing before. And just to kind of give you guys a little bit of an understanding, you know, um, in my past, in 2 years ago, I was about 2.5 2 years ago, I had a different job. I was traveling. I was a consultant, so I was on the road 3 weeks out of the month between Sunday and Thursday. So I was in a different city all the time, constantly traveling, hotels, rental cars, dinners, and I loved it. I mean, when I tell you, I did really enjoy that season, that constant going. I was also God also used that season at every work site that I was in. God had a divine intervention meeting with somebody. I used to bring every work trip, I would bring a Bible and then I would bring a book called Jesus Calling. And then I would just say, Lord, before, and also we used to bring purpose driven life. Those are the three I would put on my suitcase every week. And I would say, Lord, I pray that you place someone in my path while I'm traveling that I can give this to. In every work site, guys, I mean, I have testimony after testimony, people coming to Jesus, people living demonic things as they encounter my testimony. I mean, so many cool opportunities. So like every week, I felt like I was like on a mission, like Superman. And I would go on this work trip and like, hey, who am I going to be meeting this week, and what's their story? How God is going to use me, and it was so cool. I was also leading worship in my church in Connecticut every week. Going to practice on Tuesdays, leading worship. And then in Miami, I used to help out with the homeless. We used to serve once a month on Saturday. I was part of the welcome team. So again, my life was very vibrant, full of God, and just I really enjoyed that season. Well, fast forward 2 years later, God completely changed the script, right? He moved me from Miami to Jacksonville area. I now live in the suburbs of Jacksonville, even smaller than that. I have a desk job. My job consists of meetings. I'm a project manager, meetings, creating PowerPoints, just doing different things by myself at home. God has led Jessica and I to only serve a church once a month. And even in the church that I'm part of, I only help on a camera side. So completely different, than anything that I thought I would be doing, especially you know, that season of my life looked so fruitful. Like I was doing so much for the Lord, to now come into the season where it's just kind of like the mundane and just the different things. So sometimes, especially when you start thinking about different things, you lose focus and you start comparing and seeing what other people are doing. You have that hunger inside of you, right? I know I have a calling to help out people. I love, like I tell the Lord all the time, Lord, if I didn't have to work, I would literally just help people every day. like one at a time. I just love, I mentor someone, and I'm just like, I'm so passionate about it. And any person that I encounter that I get to share a word with and help out, it's like that. It's what makes me happy. Like that makes my heart boom. So, but again, my season does not look like that. And sometimes I'm sure you probably can relate to that if maybe you were in that season and God also has you in isolation or something different, or maybe the kind of work you're doing now or the things that you're doing now does not align with the vision and the purpose that God has given you. And because of it, sometimes we do grow weary, and we don't want to continue going, and we question and we ask different things. And Lord began to show me that in this season of my life, He's using this new season of everything, church, where I live, to my job, to only serving once a month. All these things are producing fruits in me and creating different he's teaching me different things in this season that is going to prepare me for whenever I become a leader or whatever he has for me next, whenever I become a dad. You know what I mean? Whatever those seasons in my life come, everything that I'm doing in the season has become a preparation. And then if I and the Lord began to show me, if you continue being focused on what you're doing here and don't think about where you were or where you're going, just focus on what the things that you're called to do now and watch me show you how important those are for where you're going. And then kind of I was reading the word, right? Because I always like to reflect on, what is there anyone in the Bible that I can relate to? And then there's a couple of biblical examples that really speak to me. Ruth's story. Like Ruth, literally, instead of her going back home, she came with Naomi, and then she was grinding. She was going to the field, picking up wheat. It doesn't say how long she was doing it, but every day she did that constant thing every single day, to help out. And all of a sudden she met Boaz, and now she's part of our lineage, right? Like, so David is her great grandson, and then becomes Jesus. So it's like just a beautiful day-to-day faithfulness of her. She became part of Jesus' lineage. And same thing for Joseph. Joseph's story is such a powerful one. God gave him a dream when he was little. Before that dream came to pass, he went into slavery, he was in prison, and all that time, God was building his character so he could be an effective leader whenever his time came. And that is also inspiring, like I'm sure day after day after day after day of doing the same thing. I know he was in prison for 2 years, I think, after the dream that he interpreted. Um, and I think he thought he was going to get out, but I think he still stayed in jail for 2 years. And I can't remember exactly, but I think it was 2 years. So imagine for 2 years, I'm not even talking about anything else, just that time, like in 2 years inside of a cell, cleaning and doing all the same thing with no hopes and dreams in his current situation of where he was going, but yet he remained faithful because the Bible says that God was with Joseph through everything. You know what I mean? And then that, man, that build that character, that discipline, the resilience, that grit in him, so that when the time came for him to become the leader and make sure that the land, that the people that he was in charge of didn't go hungry, he knew what to do. And then another one is Jesus. Like Jesus did not start his ministry into his 30s. He spent like 30 years in the hiding. We have no idea. The Bible doesn't give us details, of what that looked like, but I'm pretty sure it was the main day, and probably helping his dad and doing those things every single day for year after year, knowing that he was created for something bigger than that. But yeah, he didn't know when that was. So that kind of also inspiring me, because I know, kind of like what I talked about on my last podcast. I know where the Lord is taking me. I know I have a call for leadership. Don't know what it's going to look like. I know God promised us kids. So when I looked at my day-to-day actions of the things that I do, it makes total sense. My job, clearly, I mean, I work in a very high position in a sense of where the people that I work with. I work with the presidents of Aetna, of CVS, the pharmacy that I work for. So I work with vice presidents. I work with directors. Again, different personalities, different demand, egos, and personalities. And I have to manage. I'm the project manager. I have to manage all these people, all these things. Well, I can't let these things take me down personally. I can't get offended. It's just all these tools that I'm learning in my job is going to be so impactful for when I'm leading people with different personalities and different things like that. So like where I am right now in this season of God removed me and my wife for ministry not full time, like constantly to like only once a month. What is that doing? It's making us face one another, learn how to communicate, learn how to die to self, learn how to forgive, not hold on to bitterness, resentment. Those are amazing lessons, not just for the church, because again, you're dealing with people whenever you're out there. People are gonna do all kind of things to you, especially broken people. We're all broken, right? So if you get offended easy, if you don't know how to forgive, if you don't know how to let go, that's going to be a problem. And what a better way to teach you that with the person you love the most, which is the hardest to give, to forgive and let go. Honestly, it's so wild to think that. Same thing being a dad. Like, there's no way if I'm not someone who's too quick to forgive, don't know how to man and won't be emotionally balanced, I'm not going to be able to show that great example for my kids. So again, he's using my practical day to day life to encourage me. So what does it then look like for you? Like, what does your day-to-day life look like in the season that God could be using to teach you something about the future where he called you? And I kind of wanted to give you guys some practical daily tools that I put in place in moments of discouragement. If any day that I feel, because again, right now my life went from being every day kind of looking different to now all my days pretty much look alike. You know what I mean? I have my time that I get up, spend time with the Lord. I go to the gym, spend time with my wife, have breakfast, go to work, after work, have our things to do, go to bed. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I know that that's part of my life right now. So what does that look like for you? Like what does your day look like? And if it's very routinish and it makes you feel overwhelmed and feel like, oh, nothing is changing, and maybe this will help, whenever you feel like things are not flowing. So a couple practical daily tools. The first one is gratitude, guys. We talk about that all the time, you hear it, but gratitude is so powerful, especially when you start going down to the comparison and looking back in the past and not seeing what God is doing. It's like, what, Lord, I'm grateful. So for me in this is, I'm like, Lord, I'm grateful. Oh my God, I have a beautiful wife. You know what I mean? I'm having an amazing, we're building amazing intimacy and connection that I've never imagined in my life. I'm so grateful for training for a marathon. Now I'm training for my fourth marathon, believing to do a sub 4. Never imagined this season coming. You know what I mean? So wow, what a blessing. So I get to focus on that. I get to focus on leading my home and being connected with my family. I've gained a whole family through my wife, learning how to love them and be there for them. So again, once you start being grateful for those things, it changes your mind, it changes you, and it makes you totally um ready to change your perspective from being down to being up. And also the second thing is ask the Lord, what is this task teaching me? And I think that's so powerful, guys. Like, look at your life right now, your job, your family situation, the city you live, the church. He says, Lord, what about this specific situation in my job, in my church, in my friends, in my city that's happening? What are you doing through that to teach me something about my future or about something that I am? And when you say that prayer and you surrender and you listen to the Holy Spirit, it is so beautiful. It is so beautiful because every day when things starts to happen in my life, I have this lens now. Okay, well, how could this affect me as a leader? How can this affect me as a dad? How does this affect me as a husband? And as I take on these tasks and these things that I have to do, it's like, this makes sense. That's why I got to push through. That's why I can't quit. So just give you excitement and purpose in the season that you're in. And another thing is do it all with excellency. I know it might not be what you dreamed of, but try to be faithful to the things you're called to do. Don't push it to the side. Don't minimize it. Do it with excellence. Put yourself out there and commit to doing things. And it's not easy, guys. It's not easy. Believe it or not, podcasting for me, I never imagined me doing this. I am not like, I wasn't never dreaming of becoming a podcaster or doing, but the Lord called me to do this. Every week, He wants me to podcast. I don't want to podcast every week. I like anymore. I like being kind of hidden with my wife in my life, but it is what he called me to do. So I have to be committed to every week, even though I'm tired, showing up. You know what I mean? So again, just being committed and doing with excellency. And the last thing that has been refreshing to me too is that remind yourself that there's a reward. God approves the things that we're going through. God never wastes a season. He never wastes a lesson. There's always a blessing and a reward, you know. And I'm not someone who I don't like to constantly be talking about blessing and rewards because that is not the focus of our walk. You know, we go through things, and sometimes you do great things and you don't get blessing and rewards. You know, so that's just part of the walk. You know, but also don't swing the pendulum all the way to the other side, right? And be like, remember that God is a good father. So there could be blessing. There is blessings and there is rewards, you know. So to me, it's like, you know, whenever I'm facing something really difficult, that I'm like, oh, you know what, Lord, I know this is growing great fruits in me, and there's going to be a reward in the end. And when I tell you guys, when you put these things into practice, gratitude, asking the Lord, what is teaching me in this season, doing it with excellency, and remembering that He gives you a reward. When I tell you, whenever your spirit starts to grow worry, these things will encourage you and strengthen you in that season. I've been doing that, guys, and it's been such a blessing. My goodness, like I feel like even though my season doesn't look like what I was doing or where I'm going, eventually I find so much purpose. I find so much fulfillment. Like I see Jesus in through everything, through my day-to-day actions, through my thoughts, decisions. I see Him. And what a better way to live your life than in intimacy with the Lord. You know, I don't want to waste my life doing things outside of God's will. I did that for many years. You know, I love living in the center of His will, and this is His will for my life. So can you say that? Can you accept that where you're at right now, it is God's will for your life, not anywhere else, right there? And can you try to find purpose in understanding what that means for you? And man, the moment you surrender and said yes, things begin to change. So I hope that encourages you guys. You know, God sees the hidden things. You know, don't grow weary. Your faithfulness today is sowing tomorrow's harvest. Remember that, okay? Don't grow weary. Your faithfulness today is sowing tomorrow's harvest. I hope that encourages you. I'm encouraged by it. You know what I mean? Really excited to see what the Lord is going to do. This weekend tonight. I'm actually taking my girl on a date. You know, today is our not our wedding anniversary, is the anniversary of when we first started dating. You know, so I found a show and a dinner place here in the area. It's like a Broadway show with a dinner. We're gonna get dressed up. You know, I get to love on her and treat her like the queen that she is. Continue building that romance and intimacy. I'm really excited about that. My marathon training, guys, going great. Fifth week down, been crushing my goals. It's so funny how out of shape from endurance training I've been, you know. So I've been really like pushing and every week, like I think this Thursday I had to do 5 miles, but 3 of the miles was much faster than my marathon pace. I think it was like 8:15 to 8:20. I'm not having that in a minute. Like your leg starts hurting, but then your body adapts. It changes. You know, I'm also in the gym, building muscles, continue growing. So I'm excited. I got 8 miles to do this Sunday and building. I have 20 weeks, 20 or 19 weeks left before my marathon. So believing in that, just so excited the Lord gave me purpose again as a person. You know, I needed to take this time away from doing all that because I needed to focus on becoming a husband. And now that the Lord has opened the door for me to go back to doing something that challenges me, man, I'm on fire. You know, I don't know where this is going to lead. They just announced full Ironman in Jacksonville, where I live, starting this next year, which I can't do next year. It's too close to my um, marathon, but that's another thing that's been a dream of mine to finish. I've done a half, but I want to do a full. So again, just really excited to see that in the season. God is also allowing me to have my personal goals and desire. Because as a man, you need a goal, man. Brothers that are watching this, if you don't have any kind of personal goals, any kind of fitness goal or anything like that, you're missing out, man. We are meant to conquer things, and fitness goals are such a beautiful gift because it can become a daily reward. You know, every day that I crush my training, it's like that flux of dopamine. It's like, yeah, I conquered it, you know. That just makes me a better husband, a better son of God, you know. And eventually I never want to lose this. I always, again, I'm getting older, right? I'm 40 now. I don't know how long I'll be able to do marathons and Ironmans, but eventually tip her down, you know, but always having a goal, always having something I can strive for, that there's a success in the near end. So all right, guys, hope that encourages you. Have an amazing weekend. And if nobody told you, Jesus loves you, so does your brother Alan. All right, see you guys next time. Bye.